You talked earlier about the supposedly unconstitutional ways some state premiers behaved during the pandemic. Do you think Australians are too complacent about this?
Well, we do tend to be complacent, and I think we believe that we do have a democracy. But it was shown during the pandemic that we don't really have the ordered democracy we thought we had. They say it achieved a lot, but you can compare our figures with those of Japan. Japan doesn't have lockouts. They couldn't have lockouts under the Constitution. And in Japan, the rate of deaths per million was significantly lower than Australia. Australia should have been one of the very best countries in the world because we are remote and we're an island. Very easy to protect us in relation to a virus like COVID. We couldn't completely protect ourselves, but we should have been better. About 6,000 more people died in Australia because of maladministration. If we'd done it as the Japanese had done it, we would have saved 6,000 lives and something like that had we followed what the Taiwanese did, who also didn't have lockdowns. We adopted lockdowns from Beijing, from what the communists do in China. We should have just looked after the vulnerable and advised everybody else on the sensible things to do, because most people are sensible and realise that in public, for example, you don't get too close and you don't cough over people, and if you think you have a cold or something like the virus, you stay away from work and from meeting other people. All of those are sensible things which Australians would have done, and all you had to do was look after the most vulnerable. And as a result of the mismanagement by the politicians going beyond their powers, we find that compared with Japan, we've got over 6,000 more deaths per million. 6,000 deaths, not 6,000 per million, 6,000 deaths in total.
So the FBI went after Donald Trump because he is supposedly a threat to the hegemony of the Democratic Party. State premiers overstepped the mark in Australia, and the victims were mostly ordinary people. Do state premiers see ordinary people as a threat to their power? Is that what happened?
I think it was just the exercise of power. Power is an aphrodisiac. It's attractive. People like to exercise it. Acton famously said, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you give people power, they will tend to exercise it. They tend to think they know better than the rest of us. And politicians today, particularly the current selection of politicians under the system under which the two parties have captured the system of pre-selections and so on, you find that the politicians tend to look down on the rest of the people. They think they know better, so that you had that extraordinary situation in New South Wales, for example, where suddenly the minister signed a regulatory piece of paper saying that the construction industry must be closed down. And they closed it down for 2 weeks. It cost $1.25 billion. And the chief health officer said, well, I didn't advise that. We were never told who the advice came from, and it's not clear that this is a piece of regulatory material which could be authorised under the legislation.